Hey, how you doing? My name's Ladidra Maris, and I'm just coming to you briefly. I just want to share something that God has been giving me, um, and it's about standing, the power of standing. It's amazing that we're all called to stand for righteousness. We all have different areas of our lives that we're all standing for. That God will even have you to stand against your own way of thinking, that your mind will be transformed and you will take hold of his way of thinking and his way of doing things. And sometimes in standing for what you believe, for what God has given you the desire for, because understand you cannot have a desire to do something for God and it didn't come from God. It came from God. Because if you were really honest with yourself years and years ago, you didn't have that desire. So if you have that desire now, it came from God. Okay. So God showed me in standing that He's saying, I gave you a desire to stand for something. And I'm telling you to stand. And in the midst of standing, your mind has to be transformed. And not only that, I will have you sometimes, depending on the person. Now I'm talking about me, okay? But God shared with me, I will have you to do something that a lot of other people will say that God didn't tell you to do that. Don't do that. Don't. And when he first told me that, I thought to myself, that had to have been my flesh talking to me, right? Had to have been my flesh. Until he led me to a story in the Bible about Rahab. And the story, as I was reading it, and God began to break things down for me and show me how Rahab was under the king. This is in Joshua. Rahab was under the king, and the king had orders. And the spies, when he found out that the spies were in the land and that Rahab had hidden the spy, that Rahab had an encounter with the spies, because he didn't know Rahab hid the spies. When he found out that Rahab had an encounter with the spies, he called for Rahab. She lied to him in his face. That was one thing that you don't do. You don't lie to the king, because everything the king says and does in those day and times were law. That's one thing. She lied. Now, Christians would say she should not have lied. That's one thing. Okay, she broke that one law. The second thing is when she, second thing is they never knew that she hid the spies. Okay, that's the king knowing that the spies were hidden there and her doing it would have been death for her. Okay, she betrayed everything she knew. Everything she knew, because she believed in the power of God. Because she believed that standing for God was greater and could give her more than standing for the king or these worldly laws. Rahab stood and helped the spies, and they gave her instructions on what to do to complete um, what she had asked for. And what she wanted was for her family to be protected. I want my family to be protected. And they told her to put the red cord outside of the door. But the point I'm trying to make is this: Rahab stood. And God told me, He said, I gave Rahab the desire to stand. I knew her heart. She had the fear of the Lord inside of her heart. He gave her that desire to stand. And even though she broke laws that people would say should not have happened, God made sure she was taken care of. Not just her, but her entire family. Now, what am I getting at? I'm getting at when God tells you to do something, when He tells you to stand for something, I don't care what it is, If God says stand for it, then you stand for it. And you're going to have some people to tell you not to do it. You're going to have some people to tell you that they believe God is saying this and they believe God wants you to go left. They believe God wants you to go right. They believe that God is saying, no, no, you should listen to God. One thing about me is, for one, a lot of people can talk. A lot of people can talk and I can sit there and I can listen. But I have learned that if what you're saying doesn't check in my spirit, I do not receive it. Or if it checks in my spirit, I'm not going to act on it. I'm going to go to God. And I'm going to say, okay, God, what part of this checked? Because I felt you. What do you want me to do with this seed that you just gave to me? Okay? It's going to always go back to God. So when God tells you to stand for something, you stand for it. And seek him. I mean, seek him. Seek him like never before. Seek his face. Don't make a move without him. Stand with all of God's power on the inside of you. Because God is telling me very clearly, there'll be times that I will tell you to stand, and the whole world, even family members, even friends, enemies are already against you, but they will be against you and they will talk about you behind your back because they don't understand what God has told you to do and they can't comprehend it. That's because God, he gave it to you. So you will comprehend it. All they need to see is when it manifests. Don't explain it. Don't try to get them to understand it because they can't. There's a block right there. There's a reason why there's a block right there. But those that God have called, even if there are a few, if there's a few that he has called into your life that understand what you're supposed to be doing, then they'll understand. They sent from God. They'll understand it. But everybody's not going to understand when God tells you to stand for something, especially when God tells you to do the opposite of what the world or the laws would say do. Let me say the laws, because we know that being in God, we hate what he hates. And everything that's going on out in the world, God, we hate what God hates. We hate evil and the sin behind it. Okay, we hate what God hates. So let me not say the world. If you have people in your life that are coming to you and telling you things that are contrary to what God has told you to do, I don't care if they told you they were in their Bible 24/7. I don't care if they told you they just got up from prayer and God told them to tell you this. If it's not connecting, if it's not coming here and it goes against what you're supposed to be doing for God, then you're going to have to make a decision. For God I live, for God I die. I fear God before I fear any man. And that's where I am. That's where I am. See, Rahab had a point. She feared God. She didn't fear that king. She feared God. She told the spy, she said, I saw what your God can do. My version says that he would melt, that he melted a land, that he'd melt the land. The version that I was reading from. Can you imagine the fear that placed in the lives of those people? And they're like, oh my God, you serve this God. And we just got this king up here who can't do nothing. No. What's going to happen is I fear the God that you serve. What do you need for me to do? And that's how we have to be with God. God, I fear you. I fear you. I reverence you. I know that you can do something. I know that you can go above and beyond anything I could ever think in my mind. So I'm expecting you to come through for me while I stand for righteousness with boldness, regardless of whether anybody can understand it or not. As long as the spirit of understanding is with me, God himself, all knowledge, all power, all knowing, mighty in battle, that's all that matters. So again, I just want to share that with you all. I mean, it's really a good read. I mean, depending on who it is, everybody's take is different, but my take on Rahab was just amazing. So anyway, it's a really good read. Standing for what you believe in, even if it goes against what people would say shouldn't be broken. God overrides every law. I'm Ladidra Maris. I just wanted to share this with you. You guys have a blessed day. Goodbye.